Hey there, welcome back. All right, so I'm here with my friend Karen Martin. So Karen.
Hi, Ron.
Thank you for doing this. We've talked so many times and it's so great to finally meet you.
Face to face,
finally.
finally.
So we're here in Toronto again at the AME conference. So how's the conference gone for you so far?
Wonderful.
Yeah?
This is the best conference.
I know,
it's just
it's incredible.
such great ideas floating around, and people that have been on the lean journey for so long. It's great.
Yep. So let's start by, tell us, what do you do, Karen?
Well, I have a firm, Karen Martin Group, and we do everything from consulting, training, coaching, a lot of coaching lately for companies anywhere on the journey. They could be beginning the lean journey, they could be very advanced on the lean journey, and occasionally companies that don't want to do lean per se, but they're just seeking optimal performance and operational excellence.
Okay. So now you've written several books. So, but the book that we're going to kind of focus on today is The Outstanding Organization. So, why did you write this book? And when did you write it?
It came out late last year, and I wrote it because there have been all these theories on why companies aren't any more successful with lean or any improvement methodology than they are. And I agree with a lot of those theories, but I really felt that there was something more fundamental. So while, yes, you have to have an inspired leadership team and those kinds of things, I thought there was something that was causing a bit of a cracked foundation that was making it tough to build a skyscraper on with a cracked foundation. So I spent years and years studying my own clients and exploring, well, why the cracks? What's up with that? And I really feel like I came to the right conclusion on what those cracks are due to.
So
I find that many organizations are lacking 4 essential behaviors that will create a solid foundation. And those
big companies, small companies, doesn't matter?
Any company.
Okay.
All companies, all industries, any size.
Okay.
And it's the lack of clarity, lack of focus, lack of discipline, and lack of full engagement.
Okay, so let's go through each one. Lack of clarity.
Yeah, clarity actually has a lot to it. It was something I even thought about writing an entire book on, the lack of clarity. So it's everything from unclear purpose, unclear business goals for the year, unclear terminology. It's fascinating to me to get into an organization and be in a meeting and hear how many times people actually have to define terms for each other. And they don't even have a shared language sometimes. And so that holds up the ability to really move all on the same page. And then lack of clarity around what performance should be. And I'm talking both operational performance and personal performance, but mainly operational. What are the key performance indicators? And lack of clarity on how they're actually performing. And so all of those things and heightening sensitivity to that and awareness that clarity is needed is a great way to start rebuilding that particular crack.
Okay. So something else that we saw from John Shook's keynote here, and it's something I've been talking a lot about lately and being passionate about is that just simply understanding that problem that you're trying to solve, right? I mean, that's clarity. Like if people can just get that. And I work with all levels of leaders, all the way down to pretty close to the front lines even. And you would think that because people are in leadership roles, that they'd be better at clarifying a problem. But it's not something that most of us are actually born with. It's a skill to be developed, and if someone hasn't consciously worked on developing that skill, they may not be so effective at clarifying problems. Okay, so what's the second?
Focus. So most organizations, I find, have a fairly healthy problem with focus. Organizational ADD, I call it, attention deficit disorder. And so the ability to come up with a plan for the year and not have it be a plan that's so rigid it's never modified. I mean, certainly there's a need to modify plans as new conditions arise. But what I find is, rather than people being overly stuck on a plan, it's usually the opposite, where the shiny new ball is constantly coming into play, and managers, especially director level, sometimes they just get pushed and shoved all over the place. And I talk about switch tasking in the book, which is different from multitasking. And switch tasking causes enormous productivity losses. You're switching back and forth, and there's a lot of time loss when you're switching back and forth. And it's a bit crazy making too, when people are getting kind of jerked all over the place. So coming up with one plan where you have good consensus across the leadership team on what you're going to work on for the year, and then having consensus around the need to deviate it when things, conditions change.
What's funny is my business partner, Kevin Meyer, will be watching this, and he's going to laugh because I have a confession. I mean, I personally struggle with focus.
Yeah.
In like I'm a, you know, from a small business entrepreneurial mindset, I get so many ideas, you know, and even when I was working in, you know, traditional industry, I had the same problem. You know, it's, you know, you'll read some great article or you'll see some great idea or something like that, and I'm instantly drawn with like want to experiment with that, you know. But then Kevin is a great business partner. Is like focus. You know, we need to focus on our task at hand. So I think that's a big challenge for many people, especially those folks like you, I'm sure, also with an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's a real challenge.
It is, but being clear about the mission and sticking to that mission is one way to kind of, you know, fight that tendency to go off script.
So is it ever okay to lose focus? I mean, because Google, you know, they're all over the place with ideas and things like that. I mean, once in a while, is it okay to be reckless? Like, well, one day a month, can I lose focus?
You can be reckless all you want. I don't know how well you perform.
No, I know.
But you know, so I think that from a product perspective, product development, it is absolutely okay to abandon a product that you get good intelligence, you know, is not going to do what you thought it was going to do in the marketplace, and abandon that. And it's absolutely acceptable to have, you know, some new market change that no one saw coming, to take advantage of that.
Yeah, to pivot.
Pivot, exactly. Lean startup pivot. But those are rare.
Yeah.
Those are very rare that those and yet you see businesses doing this pivoting all the time, and it's never excessively pivoting.
And really they're just pivoting in a circle and they don't go anywhere.
Well, they end up at the same place they started, you know, from.
So what's the third thing?
Discipline.
Okay, well, that kind of goes hand in hand with what
it does. About. So discipline, you know, many people think of discipline in a negative way, and also say, well, if you're disciplined, you're going to be too rigid, and you're not going to be agile and flexible and pliable and all that, adaptive. But that's not true. Actually, the more disciplined an organization is, the more flexible and adaptive they can be, because you have a set point where everything is, you know, being done a certain way, and you can quickly pivot, and everyone moves with you. Versus this, you know, everyone's doing something differently, and we want to change it. You know, to even figure out how to change it will take forever. So
it's very similar to without standards, there can be no Kaizen, right? This the same concept, right?
Exactly. And I find that most organizations, when I go in, there is no standard work. There is no way to do even very tiny, narrow tasks. And it trips up companies a lot.
Sure. All right. So, last one?
Engagement.
Okay.
So engagement is a bit of a follow-on. If you have impeccable clarity and laser focus and robust discipline, you are going to have a much better chance of having high levels of engagement across the workforce. Because what disengages people is not understanding what they should be doing, not understanding what the mission is, not understanding what direction the company is going in, having things change all the time, and you know, having to pivot till they're, you know, tired. And there being no one way of operating. So all those things are very draining, and it causes people to not be able to focus and do their jobs. And you know, respect for people being one of the core pillars of Lean, the best way to have respect for people is to have their work, have them be able to be highly successful. And the only way they can be highly successful is if there's that solid foundation in place, which enables them to thrive and do what they're capable of doing.
So how many companies do you see, maybe your clients or maybe they're not your clients, who are good at, or pretty good at all four of these?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when I was doing research for the book, I was really having a hard time finding more than a handful that I felt were really stellar on all four fronts. And I actually went outside of business to take a look at these behaviors and conditions for excellence, and that's how I actually came up with clarity, focus, discipline, and engagement, was looking outside of business to sports and the arts and the military. And so the one organization I profile the most, it's in the last chapter of the book, is the Blue Angels. And they have them nailed, all four of them. And businesses will sometimes say, well, I'm not military and we don't want to operate like a military operation. Well, no one's suggesting that. But we are suggesting, I am suggesting, that there's an awful lot of moving the needle from where organizations are to where they need to be, that they really need to take some focus and focus their attention on moving that needle. And then there are some others. There's of course Toyota, the king of them all. W.L. Gore, I mentioned in the book, does a great job. Menlo Innovations, smaller company out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. There's a handful of companies that are doing it really, really well, and everyone else that is at various stages and on the journey, and are making good progress. Yeah,
very cool. So the last question I want to ask you is this. So Gemba Academy customers are wide-ranging in experience, everywhere from extremely sophisticated and advanced lean thinking organizations to organizations that started their journey last week.
Right.
So if there's a manager watching this video right now who maybe is on that early part of the journey, what's one piece of advice that you could give them?
One? So one thing I'd like everyone to understand is that you can affect change no matter where you sit in an organization. So a lot of people wait for the CEO and the leadership team to declare, we're going to go on this outstanding organization mission and we're going to get clear and focused and all that stuff. That's not necessarily realistic. So you can do this wherever you sit. I would start with clarity. I think clarity is the thing, I see it all the time where people are just very unclear. And clarity is not the same thing as certainty. I also want to mention that. So certainty isn't realistic, but clarity is absolutely attainable and achievable. And so to work with their teams to get clear on what they're supposed to be doing, get standard work in place, get clear on what the performance metrics are, and that will do wonders for any work team.
Fantastic. How do people get a hold of you if they want to be in touch?
Probably my website is the best. It's www.ksmartin.com.
All right, so the outstanding organization. So I know you probably want to be humble about this, but is it accurate that you just won a Shingo Prize for this book?
I did this year. I won a Shingo Prize.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
First?
It was, yes.
Very cool, very cool.
Very nice honor.
Guess you can get this book anywhere? Books are sold, I guess?
Yeah, right? Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
Indie stores.
And what about your other books? You've written some other books as well?
Yes. Kaizen Event Planner was the first. Metrics-based process mapping. And then we have a new one coming out in December. Mike Osterling and I co-authored Value Stream Mapping for office service environments.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you so much.
Finally, great to meet you. Finally, it's been talked to each other many times, so it's been incredible to come to these types of conferences so you can connect with people face to face.
Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you face to face. Finally.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Bye bye.